You're listening to the Art Said podcast, Season 2, Episode number 7, a conversation with Bill Carbone, Teach Rock. Welcome to the Art Said podcast, conversations through the perspective of the arts and education, hosted by educators and artists Shauna Longo and Edric DeBose. Okay, thank you guys for joining us again. I'm so excited today for you all to get to hear from a good friend of mine, I think I can say, that I've known for many years through many different realms. We randomly met each other in Atlantic City at a convention and then sparked a conversation, and the ball has just kept rolling with arts integration and STEAM and good teaching in music. So I am so excited that today we are featuring Mr. Bill Carbone of Teach Rock. Thanks, Bill, for joining us.
It is my pleasure. And yeah, we randomly met in Atlantic City. Good outcomes for a random Atlantic City meeting, I guess.
Absolutely. So now Bill is not only works with Teach Rock, which if you guys aren't aware, that is organization that Stevie Van Zandt started. And so he works to help make classrooms better for kids using the arts, specifically music, to do that. But Bill is also a musician. He's a drummer. He actively gigs on the weekends, weeknights, maybe. I don't know. Yeah.
A little of everything.
A little of everything.
I played last night.
Oh, that's
Usually the
awesome.
weekends. Yeah.
So tell us what was your first experience that you had that made you want to make music?
I am the MTV generation. And my mom had MTV on. Like, you walk in a hotel and there's like CNN on or something, and it's just
Yes.
kind of TV ambiently playing at all times. For my mom, it was MTV. So I was born in '77, and I kind of like came of consciousness as MTV came of consciousness,
Right.
and just really remember kind of sitting on the edge of the bed watching music videos. So the thing that hooked me first would definitely be like glam rock and the pyrotechnics and giant drum sets. I just remember being like, man, that's so cool. I think I could do
Absolutely.
that. So, I look back, I gotta think it's funny to think to say it out loud, but like Poison and White
Mhm.
Snake and all those videos that were on. But everything else, I just watched all of them. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, they were it was that way to draw people in, right? MTV came about to give that visual effect and increase access for people to have a different connection with music than they had before via radio. So when did you start to understand where that fit into or related to the world,
Mm.
your entry with music?
Yeah. So obviously one's perception based on MTV will be a little skewed, especially at that time. Those videos,
Yes.
look
Yeah.
back, wow, kind of glad my kids don't watch those videos. Um,
Now it's all like reality television and other shows on MTV. It's like,
I know, right?
yeah,
Yeah, but those videos were like naked women on cars and stuff. Um,
100%. I'm
for
thinking
me,
Sweet Cherry Pie, just alone.
I know, like just it's some of it. You look back and you're like, it's kind of gross. These guys, jeez, we've improved. I guess we've evolved as people. I'm happy for that. I think.
Absolutely.
And just as a sidebar, I think some of the ways we've evolved are the reason you see so many women play music right now. Like my daughter is in middle school, and she and her friends are super into playing rock and roll,
Yeah.
and that's just the best. Like, and they see space for themselves in it as participants, so which is awesome. For me, I think I would trace like I got super into playing drums. I joined school band in fourth grade. Started take started taking music lessons on the side. Um, Started a band in middle school. Was doing the whole thing. But the real moment for me where that like music blew open as something with these deeper connections was I want to say my freshman year of high school for Christmas, I got Mickey Hart's book, Drumming at the Edge of Magic.
Oh,
Mickey Hart from the Grateful Dead.
yeah.
And it's really his personal. journey into the culture of drums worldwide. So it's really chronicling his journey into realizing that rhythm is universal
Mhm.
and that um, it's entertainment some places and it's much deeper other places, and that it's actually all of the things in all of the places. In fact, he would always say the Grateful Dead weren't entertainers; they were in the transportation business. Uh, which I think is great. But so that introduced me to the word ethnomusicology.
Mhm.
He had all these ethnomusicologists in the book and talked about that work. And so I started, that just stuck with me. And I really thought that that was cool. And it also made me seek out teachers. Like I started studying with someone from Ghana that lived near me, taking drum lessons with him,
Wow.
and just being super interested in the bigger picture. And that also made connections between improvisation and the world to me. Um, and culture, obviously, ethnomusicology is music as culture. But ultimately, I ended up getting a degree in ethnomusicology later. So I think Mickey Hart set me on that path. I still love that music, but like obviously I do a lot more than that. But I think
Right.
Mickey got the ball rolling in terms of helping me see that music is this huge important thing beyond just MTV.
Absolutely. Beyond entertainment, the cultural side of music and how they influence each other, right? How music influences culture and culture influences music and society, and like, oh my gosh, we could spend a ton of time just talking about that.
Yeah, and I love, ethnomusicology can be kind of, it started pretty colonial, like put on your khaki suit and your pith helmet and go find, European and Americans going to find, new music that's been there for 2,000 years, someplace
Right.
in Africa. But it can also be like, what is it about Chapel Roan that makes young people so inspired? That's ethnomusicology also, right? Like,
Yeah.
and I love that about it. And I was always more attracted to that part of it, like, like a little bit more um, the popular side and
Right.
how we relate to popular music and what it can mean to us. Yeah.
Well, that is a fact I did not know about Bill Carbone. That's something new. But boy, does that now it makes even more sense for me why you're in the role you're in, by the way, because it's like your job and what you do really kind of aligns all of those pieces for how can we bring that to the classroom.
Totally. When I saw the job posting to write curriculum that uses the history of American popular music to teach social studies, I was just like, "This exists?
Right.
This is
Well,
a
it
job
didn't. You're like, "This is going to exist?" Right, right.
I Yeah. Yes.
So, with that, let's transition to talk tell us about your experience working with Teach Rock and Stevie Van Zandt, and what stood out to the most to you in your because you've been there for quite a while now.
8 years.
Wow.
Um, and I started as a curriculum writer, so I came in just creating curriculum. So if anybody goes on the site and you look at the sound breaking, PBS sound breaking
Yeah,
lesson
yeah.
or the Beatles project lessons, I wrote most of those in my first year. That was like my first big assignment. And in fact, there were supposed to be two of us, and the other person left. Her husband got a professor job in Idaho, and she just pieced. And so I did the whole thing. I ended up doing both of our work, um,
Wow. It
but
worked out for you in the end, though, like, long term,
totally worked out for me.
yeah.
I had no,
You're
and I
you're
knew
like
it then. I
you're
was
like
like,
Ryan Seacrest at Teach Rock, right? He started out with, like, a someone else on American Idol, right? There was a co-host, Brian, whatever his name was, and that guy left, and look where his career has gone.
I mean, I think that that's true. But of course, I was just thinking, how freaking cool! I have this opportunity to work at this organization led by this amazing person. Like, go hard because
Yeah.
there's not another one of these out there. Um,
No. Tell the audience a little bit what you mean by, like, another one of these, like, what it people may not know what Teach Rock is. Hopefully, they'll click on the link that's posted with this episode to take them right to Teach Rock and all the amazing free resources that you guys offer, but kinda give them a little overview.
So, our mission is to improve student lives and outcomes by filling every classroom with the science, stories, and sounds of music. So, that can mean um, it can mean using music as a primary source to teach history, right? Like,
Right.
how can we um, what does Marvin Gaye's "What's Going On" tell us about what's going on in that moment, and how is it connected to what's happening, right? And
Right.
that's an incredible way to start a lesson, right? If you think about getting kids excited. But also, music is science, right? Just
Right.
inherently, instruments are science. Music is vibration, which is math. Um, and then the stories are the social studies. The stories are also really helpful for the social emotional learning. So we're an open educational resource. So we were founded by Rock and Roll Hall of Famer Stevie Van Zandt, who in the aughts was learning that changes in federal policy were resulting in music programs being cut, and also that there was a big dropout crisis happening in the U.S. Like at that time, I think the average number was over 9%. In places where it's mostly students of color, it was over 15, and then in some places it was way way higher than that.
Right.
And so he thought, well, we're not going to be able to get instrument programs necessarily back in schools, but we can put music in other classes in a way that you can't take it out, because if music is helping kids pass social studies that wouldn't have passed otherwise, well,
Mhm.
then you've got to win, or if it's helping kids understand math in a way, you're teaching the music. And so that's kind of the core concept of who we are and what we do. And as an open educational resource, everything we make goes up on teachrock.org,
Mhm.
and it's free to access for teachers. You just have to make a free account. We've got over 70,000 teachers registered right now.
That's incredible.
All
I was
50
gonna
states.
ask that question. I'm glad you just threw
Yeah.
that in there. That's unbelievable.
And what I'm feeling very excited about right now is programs. We've kind of
Mhm.
switched gears to creating full programs. So we have a course called An American History of Rock and Soul, which is a one semester U.S. history elective. It's approved in the state of California. We helped get it approved in 2020 and piloted in two classrooms
Mhm.
in one school. This year, I think it's running in over 40 schools in Los Angeles.
Wow.
And that's the awesome thing about an open educational resource. It's like planting a seed, right? Like we
Right.
worked with some teachers to get that course started. We helped do some training to get it going. It got going. The district said, this looks great. It got approved by the state. It got put in the course catalog, and now it's in 40 schools. And
Yeah.
we didn't have to go set up every one of those schools. The teachers
Right.
saw it and said, this is working elsewhere. That course is so great. We're always hearing that basically the kids who say they hate history forget to hate history because it's so engaging, right?
Right. Well,
Um,
because they can connect with it. It speaks their language, right? It's you can't walk down a hallway in a school without seeing kids with AirPods or some kind of buds in their ears.
yeah.
I get no kickback from mentioning that product name, um, but like they are connected to their phones, and music is what 9 times out of 10 is playing 24/7.
Yeah. And that's it. Like Stevie always says, you see somebody with their earbuds in, instead of telling them to take them out, ask
Mhm.
them what they're
Well,
listening to, and then
exactly.
make some connections.
Yeah.
So I'm super excited. We just a couple days ago got a grant in partnership with the Georgia Council on Economic Education. We
Mm.
got a Library of Congress grant to build a unit called Crossroads, where music, history, and economics meet. So
Ooh,
it's an economics unit,
that's awesome.
history and economics, but it's all through. So we're talking about kids with their earbuds in. If you hear kids talk to each other about music right now, like you'll hear, let's say, Chapel Roan again.
Right.
This time last year, she had 500,000 monthly listeners on Spotify, and only a year later, she's got 2 billion monthly listeners. Like they're talking in metrics all the time. It's wild,
Absolutely. Yeah.
And so why not turn that into something about economics or something about math? Like, well, what does it mean to have that many? what does that difference teach us? And
Right.
like, what's the math of that difference in terms of how much money she's making, or yada yada, like
And
all these
well, right,
different.
because at the end of the day, these kids are still gonna learn the skills and be taught the standards, right, associated with that content area. It's just you're giving them a different vehicle of how to approach it that gets the kids excited and has it come to life. Like, it's not like, "How are we ever gonna use this?" They know how it's used because it's relevant to their world.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Yeah, I
And
love
it's
that.
it's yeah, and it's like there, once you start with that, if you can start a class with Chapel Roan,
Yeah.
what kid's not gonna look up and be like, "Wait, what? What are we talking
"Wait, what did you just say? Did I hear that right?"
about?" Yeah.
Absolutely. Instead of I went into a classroom yesterday and the kids looked like they were like half asleep. I'm not gonna say what class it was or what was going on. And like the teacher was like trying to get them like excited. And I was like, okay, we gotta jazz this up somehow. We gotta wake them up.
Yeah. Yeah.
Absolutely. So what do you believe is the most important thing to teach or impart on a student?
Mm.
And I
Well,
know that's a big question.
it's a big one, right? It is a big one. I think like my instant answer is self-confidence. And I think the arts are an incredible path to self-confidence for anybody,
Mhm.
but I also think they're an incredible path to self-confidence for kids who are not finding that path in other ways, right? Like, so
Yeah.
you're not a star soccer player, right? You're not going to win the spelling bee or whatever, right?
Mhm.
But all of a sudden you figure out this other thing and you're getting some positive feedback, right? And
Yeah.
that's incredible. And then, but if I look writ large, it kind of, when I think about performing programs, what they bring to kids, like those skills are the skills of practicing something, learning to present it in front of people, dealing with like the nerves of presenting it in front of people,
Right.
doing all of that within a group and having to navigate all of that. Those are life skills. Those are like your whole life. If
Mm.
you want to succeed, you will be doing those things, you know?
Yeah, absolutely, and we're
Even if
giving them
it's
a practical way to learn them through the arts.
absolutely. And maybe you'll, and then on top of it, it's, we work so hard as adults, right?
We do.
I think harder and harder and harder. The world expects us to work harder and harder and harder, or
Yeah.
so it seems. Maybe it's just my personal experience.
No, no, no.
The
Well,
past
listen, I hear what you're saying, and I think most of our audience is saying, "Yes, you are absolutely right." Yeah.
and the music gives you something for your identity that brings you joy that doesn't have to be your work. Maybe it is your work, but even if you become a software developer, you still have music, right?
Yeah.
And music
Right.
is this great thing, and you can work on it separately. Or, you know,
Mhm.
I think that in the self confidence there, and like we have this other program called Harmony Student Wellness, which is a sixth to eighth grade social emotional learning program. It's designed for whole schools to turn the homeroom basically into a restorative moment, arts driven through design for the whole year, and it is incredible at like building the castle framework, all those, you know, the
Yep.
self confidence, self decision making. It's showing, it's changing how bullying is happening in schools. It's reducing office referrals, and it's the arts as this way to help people communicate with each other. So,
Mhm.
and that self confidence and that, you know, I hear a lot from teachers now how they walk homeroom is just kids looking at their phone, you know,
Yep.
and the whole idea is actually we're going to look at each other in homeroom in a circle and have a quick conversation that's going to be prompted by music in some way, you know, and that's the self confidence. So I think that's self confidence because from there anything can happen, right? So I
Absolutely.
don't like the idea that music teachers have to justify their existence by relating what they do to other disciplines,
Right.
but we all know that it doesn't hurt. And I think that the arts provide this place where you can get a kid to the point where they're feeling good enough to do better in math, you know?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I like to you're absolutely right that none of us wanna have to justify what we do by saying how it helps something else, but I think it's about what impact we can make and drawing out the, the similarities between them and how they work in and through each other versus trying to be this lone island, because survival on an island by yourself is not easy,
Yeah.
right? And so there's power in connection, there's power in, integration and communication and working together and finding those similarities that, and then using them to help students.
Yeah. Definitely.
Absolutely. So, last question for you is what motivates you to show up ready to do this work? Because this work's incredible that you do. So, what motivates you?
Yeah.
Besides the getting to go on tour and
Right.
like
Yeah, it has
hanging out
started.
with literal rock stars.
I think I just feel so lucky to have a job that happens to be my passion. Like I wish it for everyone. And we have this amazing team that feels the same way, and there's a lot of joy to be found in it. So that and um, as the internet has made the national the local all the time, right? Like
Right,
we're inundated with national things that are happening, and usually they're not happy things, and um, as a younger person, I spent some time shaking my fist at the sky of
right.
I want to change this, I want to change that, and then but to realize that you can do really meaningful things for young people by working on curriculum and really thinking about pedagogy and how can we do these things that help more kids succeed and have a chance at a better life or just enjoy school more or find something important. To me, that is like it's helped me process what it feels like to live in the modern world and feel
Yeah.
like, okay, I've got this little slice of the world where I can do something really meaningful, but also it's my job, and then all the other perks you added to aren't so bad.
Yeah, 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 yeah. Of course, they're not too shabby, you know?
Yeah.
All right. Well, any final thoughts? Anything I missed that we you wanted to mention?
Well, I want to ask you
Yeah.
because Shauna, you are like the most passionate, driven teacher I've ever known, and now you're in a different position, but you have accomplished more. Like you published a book, like you're just always working on more than just the classroom.
Mhm.
What is it that brings you out every morning to do all of this with so much passion?
You know, for me, it all goes back to the students. What experiences can I bring to them? And I think that we're very similar in that way. Like, what how can I love to push myself. I love to push others. I love to push the way we look at things, the way we think about the arts and their role within our schools, within our communities, within our society. And how can we harness the power of the arts and what they can give to students? What I've seen them give to students who don't find success in other ways, and how can we increase that accessibility to give them something excited to come to wake up every morning, like,
Mhm.
not to get dramatic, but to wake up and want to come to school and also to give them something that they can continue with beyond our doors. How can I pass on, like, a piece of my passion that, they may down the road be like, "Hey, I remember when. I'm gonna dig back into that." Maybe they don't pick the best career, maybe they're not happy, but, in what they choose, but they put on music and they have a deeper understanding of what they're listening to, or
Mhm.
they make choices surrounding who they're listening to. So for me, it's all about understanding student needs and society's needs and how that all kind of like intertwines and what I can do to help make those experiences top notch for students.
Yeah, that's
Yeah,
great.
that's and helping teachers. I love to work with teachers also,
Yeah.
and kind of like inspiring them to wanna do this work every day because it's not easy.
No.
By any means is it easy, and it doesn't seem to be getting easier, it seems to be getting more challenging.
Yeah.
So how can
I tell you what, I get to one of the funnest parts of my job is
Yeah,
to get Stevie to visit the places we work with. Like when he's
Yeah.
on the road, we'll go if he's in a place, and
Yeah.
he loves it. I mean, it's not like I have to force him. He
Right.
would do as many as we could organize, you know?
Listen, I will say he came in, he virtually visited my class, and it was
Yes.
I had it was a virtual because we were in the midst of COVID, but,
Yeah.
every kid had at least one parent sitting next to them, so excited to, like, meet Stevie and have music class with Stevie.
Every time we do it, and
Mhm.
I come every time I visit a school, I come out thinking, you know, we should be saying thank you for your service to teachers. Teachers should be getting like the discounts at every store for their service. Teachers are the amount of things that we ask of teachers at this point, what used to be just pedagogy, and now it's really you're a mental health professional. The
Yes.
just the it's
Social worker, like,
oh, it's
it's incredible.
unbelievable.
Yeah,
But we
absolutely.
come out of these schools, and I'm just continually inspired by these people that I see. And every time we come out, Stevie and I have the same conversation.
Yeah,
I can't believe how amazing these people are, and what they're doing.
absolutely.
And so, um, hats off to teachers.
100%. Well, thank you so much, Bill, for being with us today. I know everybody, I forgot to mention at the beginning, Edric's not with us today. He'll be back next episode, have no fear. But I appreciate the time to kind of chat with us today, Bill. And everybody, will hit you up in the next episode.
All right. Thanks so much for having me, Shauna.
Of course.